Hi, this is Meredith Powell, and I am really excited to be here today. Well, I would have rather have been there in person to present this program, but this will do. Welcome to my home here in Asheville, North Carolina, and my home recording studio. And we are about to talk about one of my favorite subjects. What does it take to really thrive in an uncertain marketplace? What can you do to ensure that your members, your association, and quite frankly, you emerge successful from this crisis? When I finish this presentation, you're going to have the formula for exactly what you need to know to really put the strategies into place to ensure that all this uncertainty turns to your competitive advantage. Now listen, whoever thought a crisis could so drastically disrupt the marketplace? I mean, social distancing has become the norm. Businesses have shut down, and it's got us all wondering when, if ever, things are going to return to normal. And what is normal even supposed to look like now? It's enough to make us believe that we can't be successful, that there just isn't any opportunity. There's too many obstacles, too many things in the way. But nothing could be further than the truth. In fact, there is so much opportunity, and opportunity for your association to grow in today's marketplace. If you understand the shifts in what's going on, if you understand how these shifts are impacting your members, and if you know the strategies that you need to put into place to emerge successful. And again, that's what we are going to focus on today. I hope that you have a pen and paper ready, or you're ready to take notes on your phone, because we're going to talk about a lot. But most importantly, you're going to leave here with a roadmap. You're going to leave here with a blueprint, and you're going to leave here with exactly the strategies that you need to know to emerge successful from this crisis. All right. Let's go ahead and dive in. Now, before I get started on the formula, I know I'm making you wait, but I want to give you a little bit of background, a little bit of understanding of where I came up with this idea, where I came up with the strategies, and I want to share the research that I learned with you, because this is all rooted in research. That's right. It is a proven formula. Now, a couple of years ago, I became obsessed with uncertainty. How we think about it, how we feel about it, how we react to it. And let me tell you, as a society, we don't like uncertainty. In fact, the research shows that we would rather know that something bad is going to happen than have to live in all this uncertainty. Now think about that. You would rather I tell you that something bad is going to happen than to have to wonder what if. And in 2018, 2019, now do we remember 2018, 2019? How good the economy was back then? Maybe we should have a moment of silence for 2018, 2019. But in 2018, 2019, probably like most of you were doing with your members, I would go around to the organizations and businesses that I was working with and simply ask the question, how's business? How are things going? And to a T, everybody would pretty much respond the same. Things are good. Things are great. In fact, we are probably poised to have our best year on record. But this uncertainty. As if uncertainty always had to be a bad thing. As if uncertainty always had to be a negative. It was that one thing that we were waiting for to drop out of the sky, stop us dead in our tracks, keep our associations, our organizations, and our businesses from growing. And that just got me thinking, what if we flipped the script on that? What if we started to think about uncertainty as a positive? What if we started to think about uncertainty as opportunity? And what if we started to think about uncertainty as a level of disruption that would happen in our organizations, that could actually move our organizations, move our memberships to the next level? What if we started to think about uncertainty completely differently? And that put me on a mission to find organizations and businesses that had done that. To those organizations and businesses that stopped thinking about uncertainty as something that prevented growth and started to think about uncertainty as something that actually propelled growth. And let me tell you, finding companies like that was not easy, but I identified 9. 9 companies that have been in business since the late 1700s, early 1800s, that are still in business, thriving today. Now, I'm going to repeat that. These are businesses that were started in the late 1700s, early 1800s, and they are still in business, thriving today. So you know what that means. That means they have come through world wars. That means they have come through economic depression. And yep, that means they have even survived a pandemic. And I wanted to understand why. I mean, aren't you curious? Why? Why did they make it when other businesses didn't? And why could companies just start out with an idea in the 1700s and have to deal with the level and amount of change they have had to deal with to be in business today? I mean, I'm sure you're as curious as I was. So I went in, I did the research, I asked the questions, and from that, I developed my 9-step formula for thriving in an uncertain marketplace. The 9-step formula that you need to know, that you need to understand to really position your association, position you to best help your members to truly emerge successful from this crisis. All right, I've got one last thing to share with you before we dive in, before I share each step of the strategy, and that is a story. And I think it's a story that you're going to be able to relate to as well. Now, when I started this year, 2020, probably like most of you, I was excited. I saw nothing but opportunity in this year because we were not only starting a new year, we were starting a new decade. Talk about an opportunity to really start over or to think big. And probably like most of you, this year started off strong for me. By the end of February in 2020, I was looking at my best first quarter on record, my best first quarter since I had started my business. Then in 1 week, the week of March 9th, everything changed. See, I make my living as a keynote speaker. That means I get on planes, I travel around the world, I engage with thousands of people, or at least that's what I did. And in 1 week, I sat in my home in Asheville, North Carolina, and not only watched as every piece of revenue disappeared from my calendar, but on top of that, my business model, being a keynote speaker, became unusable, unworkable. I could no longer get on planes. I could no longer engage thousands of people. I could no longer travel around the world. And probably like many of you, I panicked. I got scared. I didn't know what I was going to do. I started to think about what I could sell on eBay. Could I possibly deliver pizzas? Then I got mad and I got angry. This wasn't fair. It wasn't right. Why was this happening to me? And then, thank goodness, I decided to take action. Now, I didn't know what to do or where to turn, but luckily for me, I had been researching this book. I had been looking into what it takes to get through uncertainty. And with no other ideas on the table, I decided to drink my own dog food. Drink my own dog food and eat my own dog food and drink my own Kool-Aid. There, I got it right? In fact, I just decided to take my own advice. And so from that, I'm happy to report I implemented these 9 strategies into my own business. I followed each step, each strategy one by one. And the strategies have to work in order. They're like a domino effect. There's a leveraging effect with them. And by June, I completely turned my business around. And I'm happy to report that in October of this year, I'm probably headed for my best year on record. 2020 is probably going to be a better year than 2019. Now, I share that because of what I want you to understand is that these strategies work. This is the formula for thriving in an uncertain marketplace. Now, all of these strategies are simple, but it's not easy. It takes focus, commitment, and hard work. But listen, I know you, and you are more than up to the challenge. All right, I have kept you waiting long enough. Let's go ahead and dive in. Drum roll, please. Can you give me a drum roll? Drum roll, please. Let's go ahead and get started on these strategies. Strategy number one. If you want to emerge successful from this crisis, if you want to get through this uncertain economic time, if you want to help your members and grow your association, then you have got to begin with a relentless vision. It is no longer enough to have a vision on your wall, to talk about a vision now and then. You have to be relentless about that vision. People need hope, and they need to know where they're headed and where they're going. And if you're not focused on a vision, if you can't help them see the end point, then they're going to get caught in all the obstacles, all the reasons they can't succeed. What you focus on in an uncertain marketplace, that's what expands. That's the return on investment that you get. Now, a few years ago, there was a great story about a group of boys who wanted to go on a whitewater rafting trip in Northern California. And as luck would have it, a few weeks before they were set to go on this trip, there were torrential downpours in Northern California. So much rain that it made the typical class 2 and class 3 rapids now at the dangerous level of class 5 rapids, really making the river unrunnable. I mean, you've probably experienced that in whitewater raft trips that you've been on. And pretty much they were going to call the trip, but boys being boys, they begged and they pleaded both both of the guides to be able to go. And the guide finally gave in. The lead guide finally gave in. And he said, boys, you can go on this trip on one condition. You can go on this trip as long as you sit through a safety talk. Now, the typical safety talk that we go on is 15, 20 minutes long, but I'm going to put you through a 3-hour safety tip. Do you think you can do that? Well, the boys agreed. And for 3 hours, this guide went through every obstacle, every rock, every down tree, every piece of high water these boys were going to hit as they went on this whitewater raft trip. But he spent 3 times as much time focused on what he called the positive point, or what I'm referring to as the relentless vision, where the boat, the raft, needed to end up. And he explained it like this, and listen, because I think this is so key for us. He said, as you go down the river, please understand, I am going to point out every obstacle. I am going to point out every tree. I am going to point out the biggest rapids, but then I am immediately going to focus your attention on where I want the raft to go. Because if you spend too much time focused on the rocks, focused on the down trees, focused on the high water, then our boat is going to get tangled up in those things. But if I switch your attention to the positive point, if I have a relentless vision for where that raft needs to go, that's where the raft is going to end up. It's the exact same thing in our associations. You've got to be focused on where you are headed. Now, I start every single day with my relentless vision, the vision of where I see my business 1 year from now. If you came home with me and you got up with me in the morning, first understand I would look nothing like this. You probably wouldn't even recognize me. But you would see when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is make a pot of coffee, grab a cup, and I go upstairs and read my note cards, my relentless vision of where I see my business in the next year. When I take a break at lunch, I read my vision again. And at the end of the day, I read my vision before I shut my office down. Every team meeting I have with my staff, we start and we end with a relentless vision, because I don't only want me focused on where the boat needs to go. I need my team focused on where the boat needs to go. So what is your relentless vision for your association, for your industry? What do you see in the future? And you need to be focused on that. What you focus on expands. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't is simply a matter of where they focus their time and their energy. Now listen, The research revealed that as much as you need to be focused on the positive point, we can't be as naive as to ignore or pretend there aren't obstacles out there. In fact, there is so much change in the marketplace that if you don't see those obstacles, if you're not prepared for the changes coming, then you're going to be in real trouble. So our second strategy is to condition yourself for change. Look, change is like a muscle. The more you work it, the more you think about it, the more you talk about change, the better shape you're going to be in to deal with the changes that are coming in the marketplace. All too often, we deal with consultants and experts that help us understand change once change has happened. Well, in an uncertain marketplace, waiting for change to happen means it's too late. You're already behind. You need to be ahead of the change, because the truth about change is if you see change coming, it can be your greatest opportunity. It can be one of the best things that you've got for competitive advantage. But if you ignore change, if you put your head in the sand, that change will bury you. So how do you condition yourself for change? How do you build that change muscle? We use a tool we call a skeptic. Now, I'm going to need you to write this tool down, all right? It's just a set of words, and I want you to write them, in a vertical setting. Now, first word is society. Second word is competition. Third word is economics. Fourth word is politics, then technology, then industry, then customers. So first, we have competition. No, we have society, competition, economics, politics, technology, industry, and customers. And all you've got to do is get your team together, or maybe a few of your peers in this association of executives, and get together and talk about the changes that you see happening in the marketplace. What changes do you see happening with society? What changes do you see happening politically? What changes do you see happening with technology? What changes do you see happening with your members? You can just replace customers for members. And the more that you sit around every month and you talk about that, what you're doing is actually creating your future by predicting the things that will happen. And when you see the changes coming in the marketplace, you've got the time, the resources, and the energy to see the changes that you need to be paying attention to. Listen, I've been working with my clients for years on using this tool. I'm really working it in to a meeting at least once a month if in highly uncertain times. And in really calm times, we do it once a quarter. But one of my clients that we've been able to take advantage of mergers and acquisitions because we've seen the shifts in the marketplace coming. But one of my favorite examples was a company that I just started working with just a couple of years ago. And as we would go through this exercise, one of the biggest changes they saw is that their customers wanted more convenience and more ability to do things from their home and their offices. And they knew if they were going to continue to attract top talent, that they would need to start creating some type of work from home environment. Now, they started on this 2 years ago, getting the technologies, the policies, and the procedures. So when COVID hit, they were way ahead of their competition. They could not only respond to their employees' needs, but their customers' needs at rapid speed. See, change is coming in the marketplace. It is always going to happen. And one of the biggest pushbacks I get from executives is I understand change, but I struggle to get my team to change. Well, if you're not conditioning them for change, if you're not getting them in shape for change, then they're going to continue to struggle. So put this skeptic tool in place. Give them an opportunity to build their change muscle and walk and watch as you condition yourself for change. You get strong for change. All right. I have given you 2 of the 9, and I hope that you're already starting to see how powerful this formula is. We want to start with that relentless vision, believing that there is opportunity. But then we've got to be realists, and we've got to deal with the obstacles and challenges that we have coming in the marketplace by conditioning ourselves for change. Now, number 3 is something that, boy, I see it absolutely everywhere, but I didn't really realize how important and powerful a strategy is. The strategy is because once you understand the obstacles and challenges that you have to deal with in the marketplace, then you're going to need to figure out who you're going to need to work with to solve those challenges and obstacles. Because strategy number 3 is that competition now becomes collaboration. There isn't the time to compete with people. See, the problems that we're facing in today's marketplace, they're too big for one association. They're too big for one executive. They're too big for one industry to solve. We have to start to work together. Now, we're seeing this happen all over our world today. We're seeing grocery stores work together to share supply chains. We're seeing countries work together to find a vaccine. It's the exact same in our associations. From the Skeptic tool, we have identified the obstacles that we've got in this marketplace. And then you need to ask yourself, who could I work with to really help me solve these challenges? It's not that you can't solve the challenges by yourself, but success in an uncertain marketplace is about speed and saving resources. And you can move faster when you work together, and you can conserve resources when you work with other people. And you know that. You've done it before, right? Now, one of my favorite stories around this is an idol of mine, and that is Winston Churchill. Now, Winston Churchill, thank goodness, really understood that competition has got to become collaboration. And when faced with one of the biggest challenges in the world, the attack of Nazi Germany, the threat of them taking over the world, Winston Churchill understood that England, the United Kingdom, could not defeat Nazi Germany by themselves. Now, we all remember this from our history books, right? So he reached out for collaboration. He reached out to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And if you know the history behind that, you know it wasn't easy to get Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the United States into World War II. But Winston Churchill also swallowed a tough pill and went out to Joseph Stalin and got the Soviet Union involved, because working together and joining forces, they could turn all of this uncertainty into an opportunity for them to win World War II. So what are your challenges? What are your obstacles? What are the biggest things that you're dealing with? And who could you work with in the marketplace to solve those? Now, I've been really helping my clients do this a lot. I've got a healthcare organization that I work with that you can imagine they are going gangbusters right now. They are doing so incredibly well. But their entire sales team, when they started this, still sold traditionally. They still went out and they networked and they met with potential clients and members in person. And I have a technology company that has been selling virtually since the day they started, but they were working in the restaurant space. Now, this was a space that probably wasn't going to invest in technology for a while. So I connected the two together, and the technology company helped the healthcare company learn to sell virtually quickly. And the healthcare company helped the technology company get into the healthcare space. Competition becomes collaboration. Understand your obstacles and then think about who you can work with to solve those challenges. Now, strategy number 4, I've got to tell you, is my favorite strategy in the bunch. And the reason it's my favorite strategy is because I think it deals with one of the biggest challenges we face in an uncertain marketplace. It is hard to make decisions when you don't know what the future holds, right? I mean, how do you know what to invest in, what decisions to move forward with, and what things to pass on? And what I've seen with many of my clients, and you've probably seen it with your members, is people have one or two reactions. Either they're caught like a deer in the headlight and they don't know which way to turn. They're not sure what to do. They're just stuck. Or they grab at anything, really deciding that what everybody else is doing is probably what they should be doing. Neither strategy works. You either end up being stuck, which means you go backwards, or you throw time, energy, and money at things that so much that you spread yourself so thin, you can't really move forward. So how do you make decisions in an uncertain marketplace? When you make decisions in an uncertain marketplace, by knowing your core values. Your core values become your litmus test. They become your North Star, your guiding light. You have to know, I want you to answer these two questions. Write them down. Who do you want to be in the middle of this crisis? How do you want to show up right now? And then who do you want to be? Who do you want your organization to be after this crisis is over? Once you know and can define those two things, then you need to be making decisions and asking yourself whether the decisions that you make line up with who you've said you want to be. If you stay true to your core values, that's what's going to carry you through this crisis. One of my favorite stories around this is a program that I did early on for a company named Doosan Bobcat. Now, you probably all know Bobcat. Any construction site you've ever had a Bobcat on it, right? And Doosan Bobcat, early on when this crisis hit, like many of us, really looked at what they needed to get rid of and what they needed to continue to do in order to even remain steady in the middle of this crisis. Well, one of the things that has made Doosan Bobcat such a successful company is they invest in research and development. They want to be the leaders in the technology and the equipment that they are providing to their customers. It's how they differentiate themselves in the marketplace. But at the beginning of this crisis, R&D, research and development, didn't seem like a smart place to invest. So they completely pulled back. But the CEO felt like they were scrambling, like they weren't making progress. And he took his executive team back and said, who do we want to be in the middle of this crisis? And who do we want to be when this crisis is over? And what they came up with is they wanted to be an organization that ensured the safety and health of their employees and their customers. And they wanted to be an organization that was really helping their customers emerge successful, find new opportunities, and ensure the long-term sustainability of Doosan Bobcat. And when they went back and they looked at that, it completely realigned what they needed to invest in. And research and development was something they didn't need to back away from, but it was something they needed to stay committed to. And once they understood who they wanted to be in the middle of this crisis and who they wanted to be when this crisis was over, that really ensured that they understood how to make decisions. Not only the executive leadership team, but everybody who worked in the company. Because all you ever have to do is ask yourself, does the decision that we're making help us be who we want to be in the middle of this crisis? And does it help us become the company that we want to become? If you do that, it's going to ensure that you emerge successful. Every company I research, everyone who made it through every crisis our country has faced. And think about this. Think about all the challenges that we have faced since the late 1700s, early 1800s, all the change that we have been through. How they made decisions was by understanding who they were at their core and where they wanted to be, and then use that as their guiding light, as their North Star. All right, we are cooking with gas. We have 4 of the 9. We know that we have got to begin with that relentless vision. We've got to be focused on where we're going. We've got to deal and understand with the obstacles and challenges that we are facing. We've got to really create our future by predicting our future now. And we have got to replace our competitive mindset with a collaborative mindset. We've got to start to think about who we can partner with, who we can work with to really emerge successful from this crisis. And we've got to know our core, really secure our core, and use our core values as our guiding principle and our decision-making process. What could possibly be left? We've got 5 more powerful strategies for you. I hope you are taking notes, because again, these work in order. If you start with that vision, if you understand your obstacles, you start to think about who to collaborate with, and you make your decisions on your core values, you are ready to start to grow your association. And make no mistake, you can grow in the middle of this crisis. There is so much opportunity out there, but we tend to think about growth in the middle of a crisis by thinking about finding new opportunities, when we want to do the exact opposite. We don't want to focus on finding new opportunities as much as we want to focus on securing our base, securing our existing members. Those people have been with us and loyal to us. Once you understand the challenges and the problems that your existing members are facing, not only are you going to secure their loyalty to you, but on top of that, they are going to give you the exact language, information you need to reposition yourself in today's marketplace to remain relevant. And if you're relevant, you're going to grow your association. Listen, in any uncertain marketplace, people are investing money. They're buying memberships. They're buying products, but only in organizations that are relevant, that are solving their problems. It's a myth in this marketplace that you can't grow. But if you're not growing, it's because you're not relevant. What you sold and offered before COVID has to change now, because the members that you were serving, they have different problems, they have different challenges, they have different issues. And the only way to understand those issues, challenges, and problems is to engage them, is to talk with them. Now, I'm telling my clients, what I want you to do is go back to all of your members. I want you to reach out and contact all of your members. In fact, I want you to contact any members that you have lost in the last year. And I just want you to ask them a few questions. Write these down. Just do a phone call, not an email, but just do a phone call and check in with them and ask them, how are things going? How is this challenge impacting your customers, your industry? And if you could focus on one thing to really help you be successful, what would that one thing be? See, when you ask those questions, some really powerful things happen. Again, they'll be loyal to you and you're going to find opportunity. But more importantly for that, they're going to tell you all of their challenges. They're going to tell you their opportunities. They're going to tell you exactly what they need. And they're going to tell it to you in their language. And when they tell it to you in their language, they're giving you the gift of exactly what you need to know to reposition, redefine your opportunities to not only remain relevant for them, but to remain relevant for new members that are thinking and looking for organizations to join that could help them. Now, one of my favorite stories from the book from this is from Procter and Gamble. And Procter and Gamble was started in the early 1800s by two men who were marrying sisters. One sold soap and the other sold candles. And their future father-in-law said, boys, why are you competing with one another? Because it took wax to make both. Why don't you join up and form a company? And Procter and Gamble was born. Now, one of their founding core values was that they wanted to listen to their customers. That's how they were going to develop products and services. They were going to secure their base, use the information and the language that their customers gave them to decide how they should morph and change in the marketplace. And one of the biggest products and services, one of their first branded products, was probably a product that many of you have used or still use today because it's still on the market. Now think about that. This was a product that was developed in the 1800s and it is still offered on the market today. And that product is Ivory soap. See, Ivory soap was developed because while people loved soap, one of the biggest problems that Procter & Gamble heard was that people loved soap, but you would always lose it in the bathtub. You would have to feel around and try to find it, right? We've probably all had that experience. But with Procter & Gamble, what they heard was people said, we would love a soap that floats, one that we could find easily. And that is exactly how they developed Ivory soap. And that is exactly how they marketed it, as a soap that floats. And just an interesting tidbit of information, By the middle of the 1800s, Procter & Gamble was $1 million company, all because they secured their base. They listened to their customers. So your homework from that is to engage. You have got to engage customers. You need to be showing up. You need to be talking to them right now. And most importantly, you need to be listening, because they are giving you the information, the language that you need to redefine how you need to shift your offerings to be even more relevant. Now, people ask me all the time, can we do surveys? Now, surveys are good, but I want you to have conversations, because this is about reaching out, engaging, listening, and caring. And you're going to get so much more from an actual conversation that you're going to get from a survey. And speaking of conversations, let's head on to our sixth strategy. I am a big believer that if you build your network, it will change your life. And that's our next strategy. If you want to be successful in an uncertain marketplace, then you need to be investing in relationships. Listen to this. You are only one step, one challenge, one problem away from somebody who can help you solve your biggest challenge, from somebody who can make a connection for you, somebody who can open a door, somebody who can help you get one step closer to the goals that you want to achieve. And all you've got to do is connect with them. Now, today I'm talking to you, and you are a group of executives. And typically what I find with a group of executives is you are great at networking. You're really good at it. In fact, you probably know it's a big reason you sit in the position you sit in today. But I want to implore you, in fact, I want to beg you to really take this strategy to the rest of your team, because it is not only going to help you and your membership and your association for you to be well networked, but for everybody around you to be well networked. If you build your network, it will change your life. One of my favorite stories from the book is by legendary golf course designer Tom Fazio. Now, I am a big golfer, and it was an honor for me to get to interview Tom Fazio. Now, arguably, if you don't know Tom Fazio, he is one of the most successful, probably one of the most famous golf course designers in the world. What a lot of people don't know about Tom is that Tom grew up, from a lower income family. He did not grow up wealthy. He is not well educated. He only graduated from high school, and he was not well connected, but he always had a dream of being a successful golf course designer. Now, his uncle was in the business, and but it became pretty apparent right from the start that Tom's rise to become a golf course designer was not going to happen with his Uncle George. And with no real connections, no money, and no resources, Tom turned to the one thing he felt could help him achieve his dream, and that was a network. He needed to build a network. So every year he would scrape together what little money he had, and believe me, he didn't have a lot, because early in his career he married, and he and his wife had 6 children. But he would scrape every ounce of money he had, and he would go to the Masters. Now, the Masters is probably one of the most famous golf course tournaments in the world. But Tom felt if he could just get to the Masters, then he could be around the people, he could connect and meet the people who could help him achieve his dream of becoming a golf course designer. And to this day, Tom can trace pretty much every golf course he's designed back to the connections that he has made at the Masters. So what's your dream? What do you want to accomplish with your association? And where do you need to be? Who do you need to be connecting with in order to make that happen? Where is your Masters? And you need to help your team build their network, because the better connected they are, the better and more it's going to not only help your association, but help your membership and really help you emerge successful. Now, talking about helping your team leads us to our next strategy number 7, and that is to strengthen your team. One of the things that this uncertain marketplace has brought about is an opportunity that we have as employers to really get the best and the brightest around us. The legendary leader of GE, Jack Welch, used to say that as leaders, we needed to focus on 3 things. We needed to focus on cash flow, customer experience, and employee engagement. Well, if you focus on cash flow too much, you can lose customers and you can alienate employees. If we all know we can go broke trying to make our members happy, but if you focus your time and your energy as a leader on really engaging, having the best and the brightest around you, you'll not only have an amazing team, you'll not only build your bench, but you will drive cash flow and you will drive the member experience. It's one of the highest and best uses of your time is to really engage your team. Really commit yourself right now to building your leadership bench. Now, everybody seems to think that the challenges of engaging a team right now are really a generational issue, like there's something wrong with this younger generation. Well, like many of you, I grew up in a traditional household. I am well on the backside of 50. My father was the breadwinner. And I'm just wondering if you grew up in a household like I did. My father came home at exactly 6 o'clock every day. He would fix himself a scotch and soda. And before he sat down to eat his meat and potato, he would start to complain about the younger generation, my generation. We had no work ethic. We had no commitment. We had no loyalty. He did not know what would become of this world were it left to my generation. So the truth is, we have been complaining about the younger generation since the age of Socrates. So our issues around building a strong team, they're not really generational. What they are is you need to understand what's going on in the minds of today's employees and not confuse an employee who stays a long time with an employee who is engaged. And you need everybody on your team right now to be as passionate and committed to the growth of your association as you are. But today's employees are fearful. Every day when they turn on their computer and come to work, in the back of their mind, they're thinking downsizing, outsourcing, being furloughed, merger, acquisition. As leaders, we've taken guarantee off the table. And with guarantee off the table, we've got to put something else back in its place. And that something else back in its place, one of them I already told you. It's purpose. It's relentless vision. Understand that people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to do work that matters. And the other is ownership. They want skin in the game. See, they want to help you grow your association, but you have got to open the door and allow them, ask for their feedback and ask for their ideas. All right, we just have 2 strategies left, and these last 2 will go quickly. There is so much change happening in today's marketplace. And strategy number 8 is that you have got to shed fast and keep moving. That the plans that you put into place in March and the way you ran your association won't work in July, won't work in October, and it certainly won't work in 2021. You've got to be objectively looking at your association and ask yourself what's working, what isn't, and what do we need to change. And I've got another tool for you. Quick, write this down. It's called a seeds, a weeds, and a needs. And I'm advising my clients, again, to do it on a monthly basis, engage your team in the process, and ask yourself the seeds. What are we doing that's working? What are we doing that's really reaching and engaging our membership? What are we doing that's growing our association? What's weighing us down? What's holding us back? Those are your weeds. And what do we need that we don't have? What do we need that we don't have? If you put those strategies into place, you're going to shed fast, you're going to keep moving, and you're going to remain relevant in this marketplace. And last but not least is strategy number 9. You've got to rinse and repeat. This is not a static formula. You've got to do it over and over again. But use these strategies in order. You've got to start with a relentless vision. You've got to condition yourself for change. You have got to replace competition with collaboration. You've got to know your core. You've got to use your core values as your guiding light, your North Star. You have got to secure your base, focus on your existing members, and learn the language you need to remain relevant in the marketplace. You've got to build your network. It'll change your life. You've got to strengthen your team, shed fast and keep moving, and rinse and repeat over and over again. Listen, I know that these are challenging times, and I could make a list of all the reasons you can be successful and all the reasons that you can't. And I have been doing this long enough to know that the reasons you can't succeed, that list will always be longer than the reasons that you can. But the difference between those companies that have succeeded in an uncertain marketplace and those companies that haven't simply comes down to where they focus their time and their energy. I think that's amazing. It's not about being smarter, more talented, having more luck or better resources. It is simply a matter of where you focus. And if you focus your time and your energy on these 9 steps, on this proven formula for thriving in uncertainty, then you are going to emerge successful. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell. Thank you so much for your time today. I believe that if you build your network, it will change your life. I would love if we could connect. If you go to my website, valuespeaker.com, there's a purple bar at the top called Emerge Successful. Click on that and you can get all these free tools and resources, this 9-step formula for helping you emerge successful from this crisis. I want you to thrive in an uncertain marketplace, and together we are going to emerge successful.